Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, making it a couple of minutes past midday UTC. Now we are back realigned and all the confusion is put to bed after the craziness of daylight savings. So how are we all doing today? Everybody hopefully super excited about the market conditions that we're in and just feeling extra bullish. So a big shout out, first of all, to everybody joining the stream live today. We've been getting 4,000 or 5,000 of you on these shows recently, and that is an absolute blessing. Very grateful we all are for every one of you that tunes in. And obviously a big shout out to those of you that are out there watching this on recording as well, because you're either at work or the time zones don't quite align as kindly as we would like. So what are we going to do today? We are just going to melt through as many altcoins as we can. And that's all down to you guys. So, you know, we normally get some absolutely brilliant suggestions from everyone. So if you have got any tickers in mind, any instruments you would like to be reviewed, please do let me know. And we are going to run through them. If not, I'm just going to pick a load at random or ones that maybe, you know, we've had a lot of interest in recently. So without blathering on any more, let's jump straight into Bitcoin. So what I've got here is the 4-hour chart, or as you know, probably a bit of an old school view on it, I call them the H4, just denoting the time frame. Okay, and what we can see here is just one of the most beautiful sections of market structure that you could ever want. Grandmaster Pikachu, good to see you back on here, brother. Also, a wonderful Erica and everybody else in the chats as well. Nahab. And everybody else is in there. Apologies if I haven't got around to welcoming you at the moment. Only get certain amounts of the chat ones come through, but if you are here and you're tuning in, very welcome. So let's have a look on here. PNUT. Okay, mate, we'll take a look at that. Awesome. Entered at 0.07. Let's take a look at it. Love the fact that if you remove the point on that as well, you get 007. Cheeky little James Bond reference there for you. So what am I talking about here in terms of market structure, right? Look, obviously you come from a corrective move here or like a downtrend. We had this large expansion move happening here, leaving this gap. What does price do? Price is typically seeking out liquidity above old highs or below old lows, okay? And if it's not doing that, then it's rebalancing these gaps, or it's finding these areas of supply and demand or order blocks where you're then basically asking the question with an order block or with a gap, are the buyers stepping in here or are the sellers winning? It's the cleanest and clearest way to really think about it, okay? So, for example, when you see moves like this, and you see price have a very short correction within here, basically what will happen on the lower time frame is that you'll create a range. All right, so what we're looking for here is for price to come in, you create a low time frame range in this down close candle here, and basically the reason that you see these kind of sweeps, we then align them with these gaps, is because price normally when it kind of enters these areas is doing something like this, right? And it very rarely looks as clean as this, obviously. What we're looking for here is this move to the offside, yeah? And then that. Now, one of the things in here that you often don't get with crypto, or you sometimes don't get, is this kind of retest here. Price can run very hot and it can kind of run away. So what we want to do is we want to use the different time frames that we have to find ways and areas that we can be buyers or sellers. And in the market at the moment, it's definitely all about being a buyer. Or that's what the favor is. It doesn't mean that we won't short this market on an intraday basis if the positions present themselves, as well as other factors like looking at the economic factors. In fact, one of the key things that we need to take a look at today for consideration let me just share this with you, is the economic calendar. All right. So why is this important? Well, we're very heavily focused on the red folder or high impact news that we get from the States. US markets really kind of move the markets the most, highest injection of volatility, trading volume, etc. And today, if we look at it, Wednesday, November the 13th, we can see that we're walking into core CPI month on month, CPI month on month, and CPI year on year. You then have the previous and the forecast targets over here. Now, obviously, if these figures come in low, so as in not what they want to see, or they come in high, depending on how you look into the news. I will do a news coverage video actually for you guys soon to show you how to kind of interpret this data. But basically, if the market information is positive and it washes through well, then it tends to be very good for risk markets. Okay. However, if the figures aren't what they want to see, and especially when we go into tomorrow, we can see, we've got core PPI month on month, unemployment claims, which is massive. And then we've got Powell speaking. Okay, so Jerome Powell is the head of the Federal Reserve. Okay, so he really has the ability to move these markets, whether it be a hawkish or a dovish tone. What that means is hawkish, is typically a bearish stance where he will be saying things like, maybe we aren't going to have the rate cuts that we foresee. Then it's all a case of balancing what the market has priced in and what it hasn't. So in these situations, the balancing act that the Fed have here is that the markets are very, very prosperous at the moment. Now, the problem is, as the markets are very, very prosperous, people are spending a lot of money, the money's coming into the economy. There's a risk and a chance that pushes, inflation, right? And then you kind of bringing in recession fears, and you've got to kind of have this balancing act. So although they cut 25 basis points at the last FOMC, the whole point of that was that the market had that priced in, all right? So if the market prices something in, typically it then levels expectations, a little bit of the buy the rumor, sell the news kind of situation where, the markets were expecting that 25 basis point cut. If it had been 50, it would have been seriously bullish for the markets. If it had been no cut at all, then that would have been a little bit bearish for the markets, right? Because the market was expecting that cut to come in. However, it's just always considering that there's just that little bit of a catalyst sat within this. Yeah, Erica, I think we've got yeah, I think there's a little bit of an issue with the screen at the moment, guys. Hopefully it's not too bad as we kind of flick back across to the chart. Let's take a look and see if we've got that. Yeah, what I'll do, I'll try and keep an eye on this, guys. Do let me know if this gets it. Obviously, we've got this over here for some reason where you would normally have the screen, but for whatever reason, that is not working particularly well for us today, is it? So give me one moment. What I might be able to do is just load this up on a new screen. Here we go. Here we go, guys. Can you hear me? Have you got that all right? We've got to just flick the screen over. So hopefully you've got that a little bit clearer at the moment. We do lose our beautiful Congress banner, but I will be more than happy to tell you all about that as we go through. So we do have our Congress event coming up. So it's a completely free event. I'm sure you can find some information down in the description. Perfect now. Awesome. Great. Yeah, don't want you to be hindered on looking at any of those charts. All right, guys. But Congress event. So you can sign up for it for free. You can go and check the Discord, Twitter, bits and pieces like that and find the link. We get some of the biggest and best names in the industry coming on to give you their opinions, their insights, and drop a lot of alpha for you. All right. So with that in mind, you can come along. There's prize giveaways. We open the entire private paid Discord for free. All right. So if you're interested in that, please do go and take a look down in the description. Make sure that you get yourself signed up. You can do a pre-sign up there as well. Put yourself also forward for some great goodies and prizes as well as some giveaways. So I'll remind you all about that as we go on. Obviously, just unfortunately, for whatever reason, the banner isn't working today. Me and technology are often at odds with one another. So before I blather on too much about other stuff, let's get back to the charts, all right? So BTC, we've got the catalyst coming into the market today, potentially with CPI, PPI tomorrow, and FOMC. So what we're looking for here, because we've got this beautiful consolidation at the moment, right? Now, obviously, I'm not really a guy for kind of patterns and bits and pieces like that. For that, I mean, obviously our wonderful crypto bird is an absolute genius with all things trading, right? But also a gentleman called Axel Kaibar, I believe, who will be joining us again this year for Congress. If you're somebody that's interested in pattern trading, this guy is one of the very best in the world, okay? Another one from the wonderful CMT Brotherhood. Okay, so as we look at this, you can see prices now compressing. This is just a larger version of what we discussed in these smaller consolidations, right? So if we look at how price typically moves in these, you get price coming down to here. We can see that. Another smaller version of it here as well, and a slightly steeper one of it over here, right? So why is this important? Well, a couple of different reasons. Compression leads to expansion, and also what we're seeing here is we're seeing people getting shaken out or players getting sent in the wrong direction, and that's very, very important in terms of liquidity, right? What typically happens in these, and we'll look at it on the lower time frames, is retail traders, and again, I say this every session, it's not a derogatory term. I'm a retail trader. Most people are. In fact, we're talking when we're not about major institutions, hedge funds, banks, etc. And then what we're looking for on here is saying, okay, where are they going to be stepping into the markets? Where are they buying? Now, what happens is retail typically get in quite late into moves. They want too much confirmation. If you look at it from the point of FOMO and people rushing into these moves, this is, a really, really good buying area. However, quite often people will see these pumped late and then start to get in too late up here. And you're asking the questions, where's your risk, right? So you really want to make sure when you're trading that you have a defined point of risk. For example, within this area here, if you're a buyer in around here, you can, set your risk at the bottom of this order block, for example, or below this swing low. You start getting involved in these moves here, what are you going to do? The difference between entering something like this, for example, versus entering something like this. Yeah, because realistically, you should really have your risk in the same place. If we overlay these and people are pumping in, and what they're not doing is they're not then actually setting the correct risk, all right? And that just leaves people open to be exposed. It leaves people open to liquidations. If you look at the liquidations data that we've seen over the last couple of days, it paints a very ugly picture for a lot of people that hadn't managed their risk correctly. So you want to be on the right side of these moves. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that we need to be able to pick the right areas to be buyers and sellers. And we also need to not be afraid of being wrong, okay? A lot of people lose a lot of money in these markets because they marry their conviction. Calvin, hello, mate. Good to have you back with us. So what are we looking at here? Well, quite simply, we want order blocks to be supporting price higher, yeah, because if this is where the buyers are stepping in, when you revisit that area, you want to see the buyers stepping in again. When we have these gaps in the market, these inefficiencies, this is a lack of order pairing. Basically, think of it in terms of price running so aggressively hot for buyers, it's not pairing with the other side of the market. So you have this huge demand, right? Everybody's flooding into the market. So with that in mind, we want to use the gaps and we want to use the order blocks as places that we can be buyers, and we want to use old highs and lows as places that we can either sell or buy. For example, if we're looking in here, well, when we set this high and we set this high when this candle closed, we can see quite clearly that this is what's capping the market at the moment, 89,530. Why is that what's capping the market? Well, this is the last swing high, yeah? What happened? Swing failure, price correcting down. So this at the moment, price is failing to get acceptance above this. Now, you can either play these in one of two ways. What you really want to do is when this was set here, you can say, okay, we failed here. We've come back below. Price is now correcting down. Where do we target? Well, we target this gap first, and then we would target this gap if this one was closed beneath. Ultimately, looking at this order block, if we close below all of these gaps. So with that premise in mind, we're just asking ourselves on the higher time frame, are we bullish or bearish here? And ultimately, we're very, very bullish, okay? So now we drop down to a lower time frame here. And we say to ourselves, okay, well, what do we need to see then if, we want to get back involved in this market? And for me, it's really simple. I'm just using exactly those same principles and overlaying them on a different time, on a lower time frame, the hourly, the 15-minute. And then for me personally, I'm really looking to refine those entries on a lower time frame than that. So remember what we said here. This is what's capping the market. So what happened? We deviated this level here, and I will forever always have SC's voice in my mind. whenever I hear the word deviation. So what do? We come up, deviation, price sells off, come up again, deviation, price sells off again. So what did we target on the 4 hour? We said, okay, if prices deviate at this level here, we're looking for the H4 gap. This one, price comes down into this gap. What do we do in this move here? Well, remember what we said again. We want to see liquidity swept. Yeah. So remember, old lows, when you sweep those, are for buying, especially when you start to see absorption like this. All right. So as with this one, look, you're not getting those big body closes, right? Very, very different to as we saw here, for example. Now, this swing high was capping the market. Set the swing higher, price corrects down. Price has a failure swing here, corrects back down. Look at what happens then when price closes above it. See, you just get more body. You get a big bodied candle, what I would call a strong close. All right. We had another situation of that over here, for example, or even here. Yeah. Look at the difference between these candles. Okay. So, yeah, you've got to close above it, but look at the long nose, the long upside wick. And what does that long upside wick do? It takes liquidity from this, fails to receive acceptance above it, right? Then you set this, you correct down. Now, when you get back above this level, we're then saying, okay, well, what's actually capping the market here is this high. Yeah. So again, price sells off a little bit. Then look when you get that expansion. Then you get the long upside wick. So, makes sense to be a little bit cautious here. But then when you get this, you set this inside bar, price consolidates here, then this big expansion here, taking out that high, closing above, gives you the perfect retest to then go long. So that's exactly what we're looking for at the top up here, right? I don't want to be buying high into these moves. If I miss the moves, fine. I'll just buy, I either move to other assets or I find a level of acceptance I want price to get above, and then I'll be a buyer there or a seller if we were in a bear market or if we were in bearish conditions. So what does this all mean? Well, quite simply, if we look here at the moment, we've taken out this low. What did we do? We've had expansion. We set this gap, right, which is our H1. We've got our H1 gap. So what does that mean? Well, at the moment, I'm still a little bit cautious here, and I'll tell you as for why. This is kind of an internal low. And what do I mean by an internal low? Let me just do that a thicker color. So thicker color, is that a thing? Do a thicker width, all right, on the line. So as we go into the markets here, I'm asking myself, where's this reacting from? That's the only thing I don't like about this here, right? So internal low. What's an external low? Well, one thing you want to do is you want to look for a consistent price leg like this, right? So why is this a consistent? Because it's taken liquidity above this high, yeah? And it's also taken liquidity below a swing low, meaning that this here, yeah, gives us a confirmed price leg or a dealing range, all right? So what we're looking for here is we're saying, okay, well, this is the high, that's the low down there. This kind of basically gives us a range, right? So we can do it with that, or we can even just get our range tool out. By the way, for any of you that maybe don't know, are maybe new to trading view and that, and I recommend definitely get yourself an account and study price action using it. You can get them for free. As you look down here, right, this is a fast toolbar for what's on your main toolbar over here. And if there's anything you use a lot, just add the star, and then it comes up on your little menu down there. Just a little life hack. I remember I'd been trading for years before someone taught me that, and then I was like, holy hell, it's like a light flashed on. So if we draw in our range very quickly, right? What we can see here, let me just get rid of these for a moment, just so that we get it really, really nice and clean. In fact, I probably didn't save this as a group, did I? No, that would have been far too sensible, but let's just clean this up a little bit here. So if we've got this as the range high and the range low, look at the midline. Yeah, see how you've got this and you've got this absorption. Duncan, my friend, absolutely. Joe C, hello, mate. Good to see you on here as well. Thank you, Grandmaster Pikachu. It's probably, I believe it's something that's achievable by absolutely everyone. It's about the time and the effort, bits and pieces you can put into it, and just really being realistic about that time and making sure that you're focused on your niche. A lot of people ask me this. I pivoted from a completely different career into trading. And one thing that I put a lot of what I've done in this industry down to is the fact that focusing on getting an original broad bit of market knowledge, but then focusing on my niche, You know, a lot of people try and go very broad but very shallow. So, you know, this indicator catches your eye, this strategy catches your eye. You know, Twitter's just a disaster for it, because it all kind of sits there and people are just kind of going mad, like, oh, okay, you know, like, oh, this person looks and this person's winning, this person's winning, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be moving averages, I want to use gaps, etc. Find what really speaks to you. Yeah, something that you really, really connect with, because it is a very personal choice. I used to be a relatively decent swing trader. It's what got me, you know, it's what got me noticed by the Nest, but actually it didn't suit me as a person. You know, as a person, I was really beating myself up as a swing trader. I was checking my phone late at night, everything. And I'm reading all these articles and people saying, oh God, you know, like, you should be like a machine. You want to be like fucking Terminator and all this other stuff. Have no emotion. Absolute nonsense. Watch Mike Tyson's video about fear, if you have any doubt about that. Our emotions are there for a very good reason, and they're there to keep us in check, right? And you need to listen to it. So for me, intraday trading made a lot of sense because I could get in and out of positions quickly. I was closing everything out, you know, pretty much everything by the end of that same day or even the same session. I was able to then be a lot more at peace and a lot more relaxed. So I have absolute faith in everybody to achieve this. If you kind of find that niche, you work really, really hard, you can absolutely change your life. And that's what we're about at the Bird Nest, right? You know, our company motto is we want to empower everybody with the education and tools necessary to pursue their financial freedom. And I'm, you know, a big example of that. The Nest has developed me a lot in the time that I've, you know, been fortunate to spend here. Anyway, preachy bit over. We've got our range, yeah? And it's just really, really clean. We've got the midline here. We're looking for acceptance here. We come up. You know, this is a very, very sneaky move. This is known as a failure swing, which is different to a swing failure, all right? A swing failure is when price kind of comes up to a level, yeah, fails to get acceptance above it, and then we get that. We were talking about it just a moment ago on the H4 chart, right? This, however, is a failure swing. It's when price comes very, very close to taking a prior high. It then leaves relative equal highs, and these are just unbelievably tempting liquidity pools for price, all right? We see it so very often when this happens. Price runs away again, making people bearish, but people get a little bit too bearish, right? People then, for some reason, just think when you have a corrective move that the bear market's here again. And believe me, you don't want that. Great time to train, great time to kind of bring discipline to yourself and stuff like that. And I was forged in bear markets, but you really want to be part of the bull markets, right? And this is why this is so very important at the moment. But anyway, we've reclaimed the range mid here, right? Understanding where we are in this range is really important, because once we gain acceptance out of it, that's when we then look to use this prior consolidation as a base to move higher, in the same way that these are much smaller areas of consolidation, but have exactly the same principle, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to rip through some alts. And by the way, Bitcoin looking really good here. And when we were talking, when I was talking about acceptance here, look at this range. Long wick, long wick. You see absorption happening to the upside. That means the sellers are winning these battles, all right? Then you get the big close above it. Fair enough. You know, price has run really, really hot here. We've got a really big close. But ultimately, then we're looking to chase this higher. And this swing higher then is what caps the market, right? So like we were talking about, what's capping the market? This. At this point, fail, look, big sell-off. Again, long upside wicks. Then when you see this bearish engulfing candle, which also sets this bearish order block here, all right? Again, OBH1, order block, 1 hour. Then you start to go into a sell program here, right? And price is correcting. However, what you want to do is just zoom out and say, you know, is it really this bad? Higher, 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 low. Lower, higher, but still a higher low. You need to really kind of go somewhere. We need to be closing down below this. Then we say, okay, well, let's look at our range. Where are we getting acceptance here? You see this close below? Tells us that price wants lower. So I would be targeting these or this gap again. However, price creates its own internal low, yeah? Sweeps that low, and then look at the absorption. Just remember to look at these candles, right? Where are the wicks coming? This is a doji candle, so it shows indecision, which is a good thing. It means that we're in a corrective phase. This indecision here means price is probably then looking to move up. So we wait for confirmation. We had the same here with these dojis, right? Doji, doji. Confirmation was bearish engulfing candle. Price closes below range mid. We look to trade it lower. Look at what we've done here. Price expands higher. We have good absorption from the lows. Price tags this gap just a smidge. And now we're back above the range higher. Now what we're looking for are our hourly order blocks, or whatever kind of time frame trade you are. I like using the hourly. we're looking for these hourly order blocks, like with crypto, actually. I prefer kind of 4-hour and 15-minute crossovers for traditional markets like FX and especially equities, indices. However, look, we're just looking for this order block, close above, retest, price moving higher. Now we're looking for two things, right? Remember, we want to see acceptance above this level here, like we were talking about with these highs. So price comes up, but a little bit of a long upside wick. But now this, see how it's dipping into it and moving higher. The other important thing is we've reclaimed our range midline here. So my expectation now would be for price to kind of make a move up towards this high here. All right, principles. I said again, I wasn't going to make it too educational, but I really don't like running these streams without people kind of having the context around understanding why I do what I do or how I'm kind of viewing the markets. So with that in mind, we're going to look at PNUT. We're going to look at some great options here, which has been delivered very kindly. We can see the ghost in the machine in the background there trying to fix our banner for us. Thank you, Mr. QBS, you legend. We're then going to look at some good suggestions here from our friend Duncan, which is Rose, Sui, Link, Near, and FET. Amazing. Thank you very much for those, Duncan. That is absolutely quality. So let's not mess about then. Let's start with PNUT, which I believe was art for our friend Grandmaster Pikachu there. PNUT. There we go. USD. I'm going to focus because, I'm very much kind of like, focused on intraday trading these days. So obviously the perpetual markets are king for me. However, I think most people, especially in these market conditions, we're looking towards the spot. So I'm going to do these on the spot markets. Look at that. Things has gone, hasn't it? So just for fun, let's look at the weekly candles, right? For me, in any realm, this would be an asset I would look to fade and not buy here. All right. The reason for that is because the pump that we've got here is just so overextended, but crypto can just keep ripping like this, right? But you still, again, remember what we're talking about in terms of, understanding your risk. Same way as this very, very inefficient market structure, right? So this big expansion, setting this bullish order block here, no retest of this. It's just up, up, up for a few days. You see this very often when coins launch and bits and pieces like that. You have these parabolic moves, all right? Calvin, yeah, of course, mate, Popcat. I mean, you should see the way that Jay, one of our amazing trading team over at the Nest, who are responsible for, some unbelievable profits that we've been making. I think 17 straight months now of no unprofitable months, not lost money in this market at all in this time. But he has been absolutely crushing that, like crazy levels of crushing it. And just these Popcat calls. So yeah, we'll absolutely take a look at that, mate, before I go off track, and we'll take a look at Super as well. So huge expansions in here. So the data is just not really telling us a lot. Neither's the 4-hour. We have to really start grinding down here. And even here, we haven't got very efficient market structure, right? So looking at this, if we're looking at our hourly order blocks here, yeah, this was the first kind of real phase that we had. Price came in here. We're looking at this morning. Down close candle overnight, closes above, remember. And that's what we're looking at here. If you look for these down close candles, and if you have consecutive ones, the way that I look at it is looking at the down close candles here, then I don't just take this one, I would take these as a group, yeah, until you exceed that at another point, unless they kind of stand alone, yeah. So for example, here, and this again, guys, this is just what I've come up with, over my years of trading. Doesn't mean that this really speaks to you or how you have to look at it. Some people allow for singular order blocks, others for double. People take the wick to wick. For me, I like taking the flat top of the body to the lower wick for bullish candles, right? Or the lower body of the bearish candles for a bullish order block, or the lower of the body of a bullish candle or bullish candles up to the wick. And that probably sounds like absolute gibberish to you, but it will make a little bit of sense as we go through this. So here we can see the body, price closes above. What do we do? A couple of things here. And the other thing that I just want to teach you guys is about bodies, right? If you see an engulfing candle like this, and I focus much more on the bodies, if you're looking at price expanding above the body of the prior candle, yeah, especially if it expands above the wick, chances are you're looking for some continuation here. Then what you get is this inside day expansion, body closes above this body. If we then look at the next one, this body's closed above that, this body's closed above that, This one here, you would then expect upside. Ultimately, we then correct. This is your inside, but now it looks like we're moving into this stage of continuation here. So if I am not involved in this already, I'd be a little bit cautious here, but I'd be looking for something like this at worst, right? I'd be looking for this expansion move, price coming back down into this region, and then being a buyer in here. Ultimately, we could flush a little bit lower here, but this is why I'd be approaching this as a spot play as well, right? On a 15-minute play, you're kind of looking at similar, really. We have had this close above here now, but probably with this kind of asset as well, you don't really want to be diving too low on the time frame. So PNUT or PNUT, whatever it is, this is, close above here, which we've got in 27 minutes. I think this is the base that we'd want to be looking to get involved in. However, we do need to appreciate our correlation here with Bitcoin. As Bitcoin flushes, the chances are these start to come back down as well. So I would approach this as I am with these markets of saying, okay, well, I'm not going to leverage, and I'm certainly not going to over leverage these. Looking at this as a spot play, if I'm happy to be a buyer here, why wouldn't I be happy to be a buyer here or even here? Yeah. And then you just have to accept that it's a longer term play. Okay. That kind of, dollar cost averaging, meaning that you're allowing yourself in, you're not just going to kind of blow and put everything in up here. You take a little nibble up here, have some dry powder for lower down if you go lower down. And if you don't and you just keep running, don't worry about it. There's lots of other opportunities in this market. And absolutely, guys, don't forget as well to come and trade with us over at BitGet. At the moment, they're just giving away $20, right? So you can sign up, start your account, go and get your $20, go and punt on bits and pieces like this. At the end of the day, a little bit like a kind of quantitative easing approach, free money increases the risk appetite of any market. All right. So go and get yourself $20 for free. Go and use our code. They're doing it to celebrate their partnership renewal with La Liga. They've been really, really good partner of ours for a long time. BitGet, they've done so much to the exchange in terms of liquidity, user experience. Go over there and give us some feedback. We work with these exchanges and our partners to really make sure they're the best version of themselves, and also so that our members and people that follow us as well can get some really good deals. So you've got amazing trading fees over there as well, and believe me, that really, really helps in the long run. So go over there. All you have to do is sign up. All your data is protected. You can go in, make a very small deposit, get your $20. Even if you removed your initial deposit and just use that $20 and try and grow that as much as you can, it's a really, really good way to step in. All right. So you can get that through the link. So that's kind of where I am really here on PNUT. Let's take a look at Rose next. Okie doke. Wow. We were on a really high time frame here with Rose, weren't we? And actually, it's still bloody caught in this bearish gap, right? So we were looking at the bullish gap here, the bearish gap, this order block, which continues to hold. Let's just clear some of these little bits up here. All right. So ultimately, exactly as I was talking about before, looking at this on a weekly scale, we had this expansion above here, which was really, really promising. And then we're looking for this area to be buyers right now. Ultimately, we've had the up here. The price came back down. Not a time to panic in here. There's a little slither of a gap here that price came down to rebalance, right? I think this probably caught a lot of people out. For the sake of everybody that's maybe new to this, I'll do the bullish gaps in green, bearish ones in red, which is obviously what we did with this last time. So at the moment price is being contained here. What do we have? Had this corrective move, respected this order block. We've had the expansion, but we failed to close above this gap. Now the gap has been rebalanced, right? Meaning that it's no longer a gap because we've wicked above it. So this is now very, very nice balanced price action. So I'm going to get rid of that just for a moment, because what I'm now more interested in here is how price is moving and how it's respecting these order blocks, right? Because we can see here we have a weekly order block, 2 down closed candles, closed above. This corrective move here is perfectly normal. Why? Because look, we've just taken out this high, yeah? Swept the high, natural for price to then have a bit of correction, people taking profit, people selling this market, big liquidity pool above this high, right? So it allows people to step in, take the other side of that bid. And then, you get these corrections or you get these reversals, for example. However, I really like this level here. Looks like a really solid level. So let's just take a look on the daily here. And actually, again, what we kind of overlay this with here is the fact that we've got this nice gap. Price has just kind of tickled into this on a daily scale, right? So if we look at this here and we say, okay, so we've just set a weekly bullish order block, right? Now just dipping down here into this gap, yeah, which is where we'd look to be a buyer. Happy still if this comes a little bit lower. We've got this gap down here as well. And ultimately, this is quite an interesting level too. right? Big expansion above here, haven't retested this. A real quick flush down to this area, take out a lot of over leveraged players. People can then step in here and then send the market back the other way. So moving this down onto a 4 hour, if we want to refine this, if we're not expecting this to go lower, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to understand where this has got a likelihood of making it a good buy. So for me, I'm looking at this bearish gap above us, and I'm saying, okay, if we look at what happens here, and let me just clear this up a minute, right? What happens here? Price comes up, takes out an old high. Yeah, remember that we're talking about with our order blocks. If we align all those order blocks here, in this case on the 4 hour, the up close candles here as price sells off. We also have this breaker here, or this candle. I consider this one because this candle's body is within the range of this. And then if we looked at this as a breaker, you're saying, okay, where's the confluence here? Price sets the order block. Yeah. Price comes down, closes below, confirming this as the breaker candle. Then, if we look above us, we get this nice bearish gap. Price confirms, comes up, hits the bearish gap, sells off. So, as I'm saying, I'm a very, very simple creature. I like life can be complicated enough. And I, have a tendency of making life more complicated than it needs to be as well. So with trading, I like to keep things incredibly simple, all right? Oh, hi, Savaloy. It's our friend Gordon W. from Bedford. How you doing, me old mate? Good to have you with us, Gordon, as always. Joe, of course, mate. Be my pleasure. AKT. I will get quicker at these as well, guys. 20 minutes, basically, because then we've got a live trading session with members this afternoon. So I'm going to rip through these and then see if we can get some positions played in live. Bitcoin had a real run at us yesterday, actually doing the intraday trading. We kind of got out without a scratch, entered the second position, which ran really, really hot. And I'm looking forward to updating everyone on that. But that failure swing that it set just took us away from kind of the top 5 hour of that trade. So kind of hanging on for a little bit of that position still at the moment to see if we go back to take that. So order block set. Yeah, price sells off. Price reacts at a bearish gap, sells off again. So what have we done here? We've done exactly the bloody same, haven't we, right? We set this order block here with price closing below. Price has now taken liquidity below this low, this low, and this low. Beautiful, reacting at a higher time frame gap, a current time frame aligned gap. Yeah, see this gap here? Right, that supported price all the way over here. Gap was set, support, 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 away. Price comes back to this area. Now we can see how we've got the confluence here, right? Look at all the green stacking up versus the red. So as an intraday trader, I'm looking to trade this higher to up to this order block, which happens to be basically exactly 50% of this gap as well, right? These things aren't as random as people think, right? You've got a lot of machine learning, a lot of algorithms, a lot of very smart traders, a lot of human psychology going in to these charts, right? So it makes sense that things are repeatable. That's why we see the same patterns repeating across different timelines, right? Because of the fractal nature of it. So I'm looking for price to come up to here on an intraday basis. If I want to be a little bit more, certain or have a little bit more conviction, then really what I want to see is a strong expansion above this area turned from resistance to support, in which case we would have what's known as an inversion gap. Yeah, you see these on my chart as purple, and these things are just so important for me. If you go and you look at basically every major move, reversal points, so reversal, yeah, reversal, you will almost certainly find an inversion gap, right? Inversion gap here, right? If I click the right bloody thing, that's twice I've done that today. Right, inversion gap here, yeah, up to the top here, look, inversion gap. What's an inversion gap and why are they important? Well, quite simply, remember, when we go into this gap here, this is a bullish gap until we get this close below. So when price is making its way up here, higher highs, higher lows, we set the bullish gap, we look for this to offer support and for that to ping price higher, exactly as it did over here, right? What happens? Bullish gap, price goes up, first time it revisits it, pings it higher. Where? Remember, price is seeking liquidity above old highs or below old lows, or it's looking to have a reaction at a gap, yeah, or an order block. So when we close below this, boom, inversion gap. What's an inversion gap? Well, it's in this case support turned resistance, yeah, and then it's even better if you get a bearish gap establish itself here as well, because then you get that kind of more aggressive sell-off. But you see what I mean? Bullish gap closed below, retested, sells off. Bearish gap closed above. We don't quite get the retest, unfortunately, but ultimately this is where our order blocks come in really handy, right? Because look at that, close above here, smidgen of a close, and that one as well, retest this area and move away. So that's what I'm looking for here, right? I want to see price close above this, treat this area as support so that we can then move up. But on an intraday basis, still very happy. You know, this is a great long here. Would have preferred to take it in the latter stages of last night, because while we have this reaction, really kind of see that long downside wick getting absorption. I'm looking at this being the magnet that's drawing price, okay? Just quickly move this down onto the hourly to see if we have any more context here. And we don't really. This is an order block. You know, technically, that's our hourly order block here. It's always a tricky one, this, right? Because it's within the range of all of these down close candles. So I'm not going to sit here and consider this a gigantic order block. That's where a little bit of nuance comes in, right? Just because it just doesn't give me any, you know, I can't just be bearish this whole time as we start to build a bullish structure. So this is a smart place here to look for long positions up to here, in my opinion, right? How would I do something like that? Well, I like to align timeframes with it as well, but I'd want to see a really good structure shift within here. You want to see price kind of develop a base, this area that's here. And the caveat to that is you then want to take a look at Bitcoin as well, right? Bitcoin at the moment is kind of just hanging around a little bit. Look at all the alts getting a little bit punished in here as well. Just checking to see what my Doge position is doing today. Nice. Added some really nice bags to that a couple of days ago, and it just had an absolute rip. But anyway, before I digress too much, this is the kind of area we want to see hold, right? And the whole point of this is we're using this on the lower time frames. We're not basing our analysis on this, right? Basing our analysis on higher time frames, finding these key levels to buy and sell. So safest place here is to wait for this. Remember, this is currently a bearish gap, right? Wait for this bearish gap to be closed above. Yeah, for price to come into here, treat this as support, and then I think it moves up. Obviously, if you take any players on the lower time frames here, you have to appreciate that risk. So we're now going to rip through, I think, the rest of these in about the next 15 minutes, which should be perfect. So Sui. Really, really, really nice structure here from Sui. Again, look how we kind of held these lows here. Price, again, look at the expansion, look at the gap. I mean, you guys get the point. You guys get the point. So what do I like here about Sui? Well, I'm always asking myself, what's the last thing or the most recent thing that price has done? Price has set this beautiful gap and had this huge reaction here. Look at those downside wicks. You know, a lot of people stepping into this. A lot of things on this ecosystem really looking to shape up to be good as well. But, you know, I leave that to our amazing fundamental team as well as our kind of higher time frame analysts. But, you know, as long as we hold this gap, looks good, right? Close below this gap, probably going to correct deeper into this gap here or maybe retest this OB. Let's take a look on the 4 hour. Here we go. Our old friend, the inversion, right? So look at this. Really nice. Bearish gap. Yeah. Price closed above it with a lot of momentum. So for me, I'm saying where's the most logical place for price to head next is this high. Right. Nice clear liquidity target of 3.3300. The only thing I would have liked to see more here is price take out this low first. I'm always asking myself, where's price reacted from? You know, to take that low and then have that reaction would have been nicer, but ultimately we've got this really nice bullish move above it. If price consolidates here for the next 3 hours and 14 minutes and we create this bullish gap here, this would be a really key area to see hold before price ultimately moves up. Now, to kind of refine it a little bit more on the hourly, you know, if you really want to be a buyer up to these highs here on an intraday basis, then this is the gap that you want to see held, okay? So this is the area here, really, really nice expansion, long upside wick here, showing that a bit of sell pressure stepped into the markets this morning, which is absolutely fine. Price just kind of being a little bit contained, I would imagine, by this bearish gap that hadn't been tested on the other side. So again, get a close above this, then you're looking for this to become your inversion. And again, then you can start to see how this area kind of doubles up as a little bit of support, yeah? So then you have even more conviction to move higher. But ultimately, you know, we haven't kind of shifted structure here yet. What do we do? Low, kind of higher, high, higher, low. Yeah. So this move up here is bullish and it really is kind of pushing to confirm this bullish structure again. So this is the area I'd look to kind of be a buyer. I'd want some low time frame confirmation signals. And for me as well, at this kind of time, I'd be favoring looking towards the kind of New York pre-market open, which is in about 45 minutes from now. So that's where we are with Sui. Let's take a look at Link. Do you know what? I was looking at Link the other day, the old school soldier that served us so very well in previous markets, right? Like God, I remember linking the old bull runs was just mental. So we can see we've got some levels here, just key levels we're looking at more in terms of like ranges. I'll probably try and just clear that up a little bit. But just look, key levels where you're seeing strong reactions, or as Dante would say, violence. And we can see we've come into this again, one of these levels, deviation, price ultimately not able to kind of come up. Look promising with this close, yeah. But then ultimately this close back down below tells you price probably wants a little bit deeper. Wonder if I was smart enough to put this into a group. I wasn't, but thankfully. There we go. So let's strip away the noise and let's just look purely at the price action here, all right? You can kind of see in and around here that there is a key kind of SR level though, right? Even if you draw it on really, really loosely, look, all the downside wicks here, big reactions away. What do? Deviation, get back above, price pumps to liquidity. Small reaction here, price closes below, ultimately sells off. And then, when you look across here as well, failure swing. Remember we were talking about them before, price goes away, bang, price comes up. I mean, actually not a failure swing, it's to do with the level, but it kind of has that same effect. Deviation, price sells off. So you can see this is a big move here and a really key one from price. So on a daily scale, price is reacting at this daily gap. Happy days. Let's see what it's doing on the 4 hour. 4 hour gives us a really, really clear objective here, right? We've swept liquidity out from these lows now. Yeah, again, absorption from the lows here, starting to see it. We want to just kind of be, have that extra bit of assurance here, or certainly how I would look at it would be a case of, again, closing above this gap, right? Bearish gap here, see price close above this, see this as a base, see this as, the deviation of these lows, price ultimately coming down here. And we've got our key support resistance level here as well to offer us a little bit of backup. So depending on what confirmation we want to see, it gives us some opportunities to enter. What about the hourly? Well, hourly, again, kind of similar to like what we looked at back there on Sui or Rose, I think it was, where we've set that kind of order block. A lot of these will look relatively similar at the moment. Let's just draw this in here. So we just want to see this order block hold here. If price really is looking to do it, higher, higher, low, higher, higher, hourly structure's looking quite good. We see this area here, this inefficiency on a higher time frame as the magnet that's drawing price higher. So, aggressive entries could be around here. Realistically, your kind of real aggressive entries were, the reaction down here at the gap. All right, after we kind of swept this liquidity, and especially here when we then reclaimed it, sweep, reclaim of this level, this then looks like our deviation. Ultimately, if we then come back down below this, start setting bearish order blocks, which would be close below this, these two up close candles, then we're saying to ourselves, actually, you know what? I think price probably wants to take out these lows and maybe retest this key support level down there at 12.824. So that's Link. Let's take a look at near, shall we? Let's have a look. What have we got? DT. P. Yeah, lovely. Right, so daily. Okay, actually, yeah, again, looking really, really strong here. All right, big expansion move, inversion after inversion, kind of holding this level here. Again, just kind of looking at this from a support and resistance point of view. Just look for these key big, long downside wicks, big, up moves. Just draw a line on randomly in and around that, and then look at it from a point of fit and say to yourself, great retest here, right? Does this make sense to me? Yeah. Deviation, huge sell. Deviation, huge sell. Price comes up, gets back above this level. Look at the way it retests it here. Yes, this is a little bit messy, but price just simply isn't perfect. Even still, closed above, what does price do? Consolidate, take out the liquidity from this higher. Gets back below here, fails to retest this because we close back above it. Then when it does, comes up, deviation, price closes below, sells off, all right? So we can see that this has some key interactions, deviation, underside retest, expansion. Now we're kind of holding this level. So this, for me, is a really interesting point to hold. So looking at the 4 hour, bullish gap, nice and simple, good hold of this. And, again, kind of broken record really, but we've seen quite a strong rejection here from this H4 gap, which has now been rebalanced. So for me, there's two things I'd like to see here. I'd like to see price closing above this, confirming our 4 hour order block. and ultimately above this gap as well. I'm not as concerned about that at this stage. I'd still take it if we if we closed above the OB, confirming this as an order block, because this gap has been rebalanced here, right? But it's just to show us, okay, we've got this. And again, right, look how price failed to take out these lows. I think there's always a little bit of a danger here with these equal lows, right? Really, really, really key liquidity points. Swing low, swing low, swing low. That failed to take it. That failed to take it. These failure swings here, just hugely tempting liquidity pools. Sat just, around the equilibrium of this gap. A move I would really love to see here is this, right? And I'll tell you as for why, because it's just going to catch a lot of people offside, get a lot of people bearish. People will see it as, higher low, lower high, lower low. Christ, market structure break, bang. But, I think there's some aggressive buying to be taking place in here and a lot of liquidity below these lows, because that's where everybody's stops are for people to come down. If you take the stops out there, you hit a stop loss, it pukes the order into the market in the form of a market order, right? So what's happening then is that major players can step in at these levels, take that liquidity without slippage or with very little slippage and send it back the other way. Let me just have a look. Nice. Good little bit of advice there. If you missed Sui, Grandmaster Pikachu dropping some alpha for us. Watch deep, Sui's liquidity layer. Lovely jubbly. I'm going to throw that over to the FA team and we'll take a look at that at the end of the show as well. If you missed Sui, really good advice there from Grandmaster Pikachu, which is don't ape into these things if they've really had their run. Find the ones that are likely to run alongside it. I'm not even looking at the hourly here on this one, guys. Actually, I think this is so clean on there. We either close above this order block and set it and we move higher. If we break down, I want it below these equal lows, and I'm going to be looking for some real serious long setups in here if we do get that. So near, we got FET. Okay. FET looks like it's been getting a bit of a hammering here. Again, AI token, isn't it? We kind of had this humongous run on AI. So it's kind of sitting here at the moment. A little bit. Let's just take a look at that. Maybe that was a weekly gap there, just see what our thought process was. Again, bullish gap, looking for support. Price closes below. Yeah. What do we then expect? That's then an inversion, right? Exactly what we're talking about on the lower time frames. Close below, retest, price sells off. Where to? Nearest liquidity. Yeah. Price then ultimately comes back and still hasn't managed to close above this area yet. But I'm just going to hide that for a minute just so we keep it clean. Now, at the moment, this is quite low in this move, looking quite nice here, actually. So we got our bullish gap. Take our Fibonacci out on this one as well, because I think we're kind of, having a really nice reaction here at the golden pocket. Yeah, 618 to 66, even the 705. Look at the way price is just absorbed back up into this level. Really, really like that. We're still holding this gap as well, right? The one above it. So that's still very, very bullish in my opinion. In terms of, looking to get involved in this. The flip side of that is obviously we have set this kind of bearish order block in the nature that we've kind of closed below. So let's take a look at that on the 4 hour. Yeah, 4 hour super clean. Just close above this gap, I think, and probably go time for this one as well. Obviously as long as Bitcoin behaves. And I like this one more because we've held this, sweat liquidity, holding a current time frame aligned gap, and we've even tagged this previously untagged order block over here. Beautiful. So again, confirmation, price gets back above this. I think this inefficient move here can be retraced really, really quickly. All right. Again, don't need the hourly on this one. It's so very clean on the 4 hour. Popcat. Let's have a look at Popcat, shall we? What have we got? We got the perpetuals contract on here. What have I been? Have I been blind or dumb or a mixture of both? Right, let's go and look at our other partners over here with BitGet on this one for the spot contract. Give them a little bit of love as well. Another great exchange and some top people. 4 hour. Okay, we'll come back to that one. Just look at the daily here. See this order block here. Look, we get the order block fail. Again, no gaps in here, right? So you look for price to hold. Ultimately, you see these long upside wicks. See how price is failing to get any traction compared to this. Close above. Look at that long downside wick. This tells you that it's hunting down this high. These upside wicks here tells you it's looking for liquidity lower. We then close, the threshold of this order block is key. And then we're ultimately looking for liquidity below these lows. Anyway, price has taken a high here. Now, for me, it seems mad that it wouldn't take out these equal lows. They just look so very clean down there. Such a key liquidity target. Let's just take a look at how price is drawing down towards that here. Yeah. I mean, again, this is really, really clean. This is where I want to be a buyer here, right? I want to see something like this, right? And either looking for an inversion within the down leg here to give us that confirmation. Yeah, so this down leg here, seeing that inversion gap, looking for that to be flipped to support, or ultimately, looking for these larger expansions here and then looking for a bullish order block within here. Bullish gap or a bullish order block in here that we can be a buyer. That's what I want to see on Popcat. Super. What have we got here? Super spot. Daily. Okay. Price kind of reacted quite nicely at the gap here. So let's draw that in because that has significance, right? As does this. Daily order block. All right, so at the moment, probably looks a little bit worse than it is. I think price probably wants to come down and sweep this low, which I'd be very, very happy with. Again, taking liquidity, drawing people to the wrong side or the off side of the market while still holding this order block. It's all about the closes for me. Yeah, if price started closing below the 50% of this, I'd be thinking it's showing a little bit of weakness. So I would kind of draw this into here and across. Right, just want to kind of see this midline here. Don't mind price moving down low. I just don't want to see it start closing down into here. It just shows a little bit of weakness, all right? But a sweep of this low would be great, but it looks like we've had quite a bit of absorption here already. So let's just take a very quick look. So 4 hour, again, we're kind of back to that Sui and Rose model here where, we've seen a local sweep. We haven't kind of seen the external range sweep. So we could get a reaction here, but again, I just want to see price back above this and then ultimately establish itself above here, confirming this H4 order block, all right, which isn't confirmed at the moment, so we're not going to draw it in. But something like this makes a lot of sense to me at the moment, that we see the expansion into this, we maybe move down into here, and then that's where we start establishing this base, right? And then we can kind of take on a really nice structure where we can move through it. So I think that's where I would be on Super. So that's Popcat Super. AKT. Good Lord, we might almost actually finish on time today. AKT. There we go. Christ. Yeah. Another one of those kind of launch type tokens, isn't it? That's just absolutely ripped for the stars. Not really much we can do from a price action perspective on the daily. But again, if we look at our H4 order blocks, Calvin, very, very welcome, mate. Very welcome. H4 order block, we do close above where we want to be a buyer. Don't be an idiot. Don't buy up here, right? You lose those retraces. That's a lot of data there. People aping in here. What happens? Retrace, takes them out, resets, takes liquidity. Thank you very much. People that are buying strongly. In the order block, right? Order block respected. Order block respected, right? Look how clean this PA is here, right? Set the order block, retest, buy. Set the order block, retest, buy. Set the order block, retest, buy. Yeah, just very, very strong at the moment. It's taken, liquidity above the H4 high here. Good thing is, if we look at this, we can see that this, which was capping the market, that was the high here that's capping the market. Resistance, close above. So looking at this area here at 0.63500 to offer some support. Happy to move down onto the hourly for this one as well, because I think, if we're looking at this from an order block perspective, H1 order block here, yeah, hasn't had a retest. So good place here to look at this to say, okay, price comes down here. We've got this swing low here as well that's within a gap. So it's a gap low, really, really excellent buying opportunities in here. Price sweeps that out. This is the area that I want to be considering being a buyer here. All right, currently, price is pulling back from taking out this. If it doesn't take that out, then I want to see price establish itself above this, confirming that as an H1 order block. Then lower time frame, we want to see price kind of hold this before it pushes up. Deep. Last one, guys. Thank you for staying with me as you always do. Let's take a look at this one. Finish up this one on the Bybit contract, shall we? Just because I'm being a bit too much of a retard today. PNUT LOL, has it just absolutely ripped, or did you just catch up on that? So let's just take a very quick look here. What have we got? We want to go on the daily first of all. Okay, daily's looking pretty good here, holding this gap. Absorption here, right? This kind of showing a little bit of weakness in my opinion, because always asking myself, for example, this bearish gap over here, Yeah, look what happens. When price retests this, look at the long upside wick showing absorption here, then price sells off very quickly. It doesn't come back into this area again. So the absorption we see here is showing a bit of weakness for price again probing into this area. We want to show a little bit of caution here, right? The H4 in this respect has, well, H4 is actually looking quite nice here, right? We've had this inversion gap. As long as Bitcoin behaves, again, would have liked to have seen that low taken out. So this could be a little bit of a false inversion here. But ultimately, I think it's looking quite nice. It's kind of arguing with this bearish order block at the moment. So the safest play for me here on the H4 is waiting for price to establish itself above here. We've rebalanced this gap here, so then there's not really a lot to stop price up until it's high over here in the 89,114 region. So again, really, really good advice there from Pikachu. I did cover AKT, didn't I? Or did I just do the wrong one? Did ACT, didn't I? Sorry, mate. Let's have a look at this one here. 1 second. Okay. So yeah, we've got the perpetual contract. Let's take a look at this one. Why not? We'll do it on the KuCoin. Sorry, Joe. Covered ACT like a total muppet. Daily very strong, not really telling us much. H4 here, again, quite like this where it's taken out that low, right? We like to see that. That's a bearish order block at the moment. Again, want to see price close above this, come down and swept out some nice liquidity here. Looking pretty nice here. Again, the safe play is to wait for this to come up and close above here, which is how I would certainly be approaching it. When we look at this on the hourly, we can see the semblance of the resurgence here with the H1 order block. So this is looking like it's kind of shaping up to make an attack on this, but we really want to kind of see this area hold. Below this, if we just zoom back out again, we've got an inefficiency down here, which means that unless this was the low that was the target, if we start to break down, I'd target this low first, and then ultimately this consolidation, which overlays with this untapped order block over here. And Miguel Sanchez, how can I refuse you? All right, mate, but just last one, yeah, because I really do need to shoot after this. BNB USD. There we go, get there in the end, right? Finish up with our beautiful partners over at BitGet, which is always a pleasure. Look at all those lows, all those equal lows there that would just run. Absolutely love everything about that. That's a lot of liquidity they've taken, and the last one here being a gap low, untap low, untap low, untap low. That one just snuck in, I think, and then, well, no, actually it didn't. It left real equal lows there as well, and this below. This is just the perfect place for price to have a reaction here. Just get back above this, and I think this thing's just going to absolutely just tear, right? Again, more aggressive. There's not really anything else to say in here, right? Because you've got this at the moment. You've had a slither of a close here from the H1 order block. Yeah, so look how that's kind of currently supporting price here. You can see it's starting to build, starting to spool, really kind of looking to push its way up. But again, I favor this in terms of adding to my spot bags on this. I just be looking for this above here. And if I'm wrong and it buggers off all the way back down here, then I'll just add some more down there as well. All right. Look, thank you very much for sticking with me today, guys and girls. Always appreciate every single one of you. I'll be back with you live again next Monday and next Wednesday. Please do keep an eye on the economic calendar today. You know, we've got the market open, the pre-market open in the US about to happen in 25 minutes from now, aligned with the CPI data coming through. If we get a really kind of favorable result on that, we'll probably see a swift move to the downside, matched by a much bigger move to the upside. And I think that kind of risk pump in traditional markets will then flow through into crypto as well. So that's what we're going to be watching. All right. Please also do remember, come and get yourself registered for our Congress event. It's completely free. You're going to be introduced to some of the biggest, brightest, best names in the industry, and not just traders, not just fundamental analysts, exchanges, builders, CEOs of some of the biggest and best projects in the space. And you get access to all of our Discord, all our education, all of our trading team calls, which would have netted you in the last 2 months with a $10,000 account. You would have netted, I think, about 14 or 15K off the back of that. So if you had a $1,000 account, in the last 2 months, you would have netted $1,500 off the back of that. Pretty crazy stuff, right? So come along, make the most of it, be part of something that's really, truly always every year is such a special event. And yeah, if you want anything, if you need any more information, you can always reach out to me, BC_Richfield on Twitter, or just come and find us over at the Bird Nest. All right, gonna go and slap the kettle on, make myself a quick cuppa, and then I'm going to see you TBN legends over at the live trading show in exactly 14 minutes from now. Have a wonderful week ahead, everyone. Wishing you all very well and looking forward to seeing you next week or seeing you all around the nest.